Hey everybody, thanks for coming. My name is Kevin Burney. I'm a Senior Manager of User Experience Design at Dassault Systems SolidWorks, and I'm here to talk today about how we're using ink analysis in SolidWorks. SolidWorks is a Win32 app, and we're using all the tools available to us with Windows Ink and ink analysis to layer that on top and start taking advantage of that in SolidWorks. So let's talk a little bit about what you're going to hear about today. So first off is just what is SolidWorks. I know a lot of you guys are developers. This is a mechanical engineering app, so I'll tell you a little bit about what kind of people use it and what they use it for. SolidWorks has been around for a while, so how they do kind of a basic function, sketching, CAD sketching, from 1995 when we started to today. We're going to do a little demo of how we're using direct ink and ink analysis on top of that sketch now, so that we can use the pen and touch in SolidWorks. What users can do now that they couldn't do before, how we implemented it, so there'll be a little bit about what calls we're using, what APIs we're using, and how we structured that, and how easy it was to bring it in and layer it on top of our existing app, and some of those calls. So like I said, SolidWorks, we're engineering software. We're for mechanical engineers, and it's CAD, which is computer-aided design and drafting software. Kind of behind a lot of the physical products you interact with today, engineers use it to design, simulate, and then sometimes manufacture those parts. And so basically, yeah, it lets you create a 3D representation of something that you want to build in the real world. And kind of our claim to fame is that we came out in 1995 and we were one of the first CAD systems on the Windows platform. So we've been around a while. So a couple examples here. This is actually the core of a bowling ball shaped like a skull that somebody modeled up in SolidWorks. There's a diverse set of products, commercial products like espresso machines, cappuccino machines. Things like industrial valves can be created in SolidWorks, and then all the way up to devices like this piece of construction machinery. This is a backhoe with a ditch digging attachment on it, and it goes up all the way to the size of like chemical plants, that sort of thing. So sketching in SolidWorks, you kind of start with a 2D sketch. That's the basis of creating any of those 3D things that you create. You create a 2D sketch and you extrude it out, and it's very optimized for mouse and keyboard, right? So you pick primitives, you pick points on the screen, and you kind of drop in the lines or the shapes that you want. So I'm going to kind of use this as a scenario. This is a rusty mechanism here. But the idea is I kind of enhanced it a little bit so you can see the key parts. But we're just talking through a scenario, and we're going to do with the demos is if you were if you were out on a shop floor and you were a mechanical engineer, you're working with the person that runs the machine, and you guys decided that this machine needs to change, right? So you want to go out and change this triangular linkage a little bit, make it bigger, change the stroke of the connecting rods. So maybe you go out with your surface, you take a picture of this, you bring it in as a basis for your sketch in SolidWorks. You start drawing over it. You can iterate on that design. So that's the basis of what we're kind of going to talk about today. And I'm just going to demo that really fast. Whoops. And press the right button so I switch over here. And we'll jump into the SolidWorks application. So if you're going to do this here, so you'd start a sketch on a plane and start picking tools and dropping the lines that you want to draw. And, you start to get shapes, and we fill in the contours for you. So you'd pick tools like circle, draw those in here. These would be for kind of those pivot points on this. If you want to draw other shapes like trapezoids or things, you can do that just by dropping the lines. So there's a lot of picking tools. I missed one. Oops. My keyboard up there. Like I said, optimized for keyboard. And basically, oops, there we go. Sorry for slowing down a little bit. So, and we're going to, basically we want to create this thing in 3D. So, oops, that's going to cause me some trouble. Just delete that. So we close our SketchUp and we say, make it 3D, right? So I can drag this thing out, and it's a 3D part at this point. So now the next demo is how we want to do that with, if we're going to switch over to the other part, how would we do that with ink? So, and basically we're using all the direct ink and in our Win32 app, they've allowed us to put it right over top. So here I can come in, I can choose, I'm using the pen now, so I can pick whatever color I want, that sort of thing. And I can just kind of come in and start roughing in shapes. Maybe I can. There we go. So, and this is Ink Analysis doing the triangles and things for me. It's allowing me to do circles, that sort of thing. And of course, I can just erase. And Ink Analysis will also let us do things like trapezoids, triangles, all that stuff. So I'm just kind of coming in and drawing these shapes, and it's converting it for me. So I want to, that's why, I forgot to turn on touch mode. So I want to, let's say I want to just delete this shape. So there's something else we can do too. We don't necessarily have to be doing that in real time. I can wait and decide not to do the ink analysis right away, and I can just draw in that circle, and I can go ahead and convert that later to a sketch entity. So and then this stuff is it all works just the same as your usual sketches in SolidWorks. You can kind of come in, select it, and create your extruded shapes. So where does that get us? Hold on a second. Switch back to PowerPoint here. So like I said, what I showed you today, that's kind of a technology preview. It's not guaranteed. It's not released yet. So I wanted to kind of include that little bit there. But so basically, what you see there? So you can kind of do rough sketches and napkin sketches without recognition using Windows Ink. So you just use Windows Ink to draw in that wet ink, those kind of raw strokes that might be colored. We can also do asynchronously, we can do the ink analysis on top of that. So we have an auto shape and a auto sketch entity command, and basically those allow you to kind of draw in those any of the shapes that are available in ink analysis. We also do some other stuff alongside the tools that Microsoft provides us. So things like straight lines, line segments, and arcs are very important in CAD sketching. And those are things that we added our own kind of routines for to do that analysis alongside. And additionally, composite shapes. And I'll show you a little bit about that in a second. And then, like I said, that last mode takes things directly into sketch entities. So, like I said before, SolidWorks is a Win32 application, and with Ink Desktop Host, which is, I think, available in Creators Update, you can just layer that right on top of our application. So you'd think, we're using two different graphic systems here, OpenGL for what we have in SolidWorks, and then Direct Ink with the wet ink on top. Makes it very easy for us. You don't even really have to worry about it. It just kind of handles it. So one of the things too, right now we're kind of ignoring the ink text. Ink will allow you to do shape analysis, but it'll also do handwriting analysis. For now, since we're just doing shapes, we can kind of set that stroke kind to drawing, make sure that it expects just drawings. It's going to speed things up a little bit because it doesn't have to worry about is this handwriting or not. So you can kind of limit the scope of what it's going to analyze. And really, to do this, there's four kind of key pieces that you need, and then you can start layering this over top of your Win32 application as well. So there's the Ink Desktop Host. That's the thread that kind of handles all of this. The Ink Presenter, which handles the actual wet ink composition target, which is something you specify for each of the windows that you might be working on. So you can draw ink onto different documents. And then the ink analyzer, which runs kind of asynchronously, that's what does your shape analysis. And this is just a quick diagram. You don't need to understand all of this, but on the left side, that's all of our stuff, all of our model, all of our data model, what's going in the sketch, where things are, and then we have the solid ink target, which is basically handling the communication back and forth to digital ink and ink analysis. And I want to kind of take you guys through a quick little tour of what's going on here, right? So across the top, we've just got a bunch of the different pieces here, the SOLIDWORKS UI, the feature, and then the solid ink host over on the right, the ink analysis. And I'm just kind of take you through what happens when you put the pen down, basically. So first off, and there's a little code here for those of you that watch this afterwards, but basically this is the ink desktop host. This is the thing that makes it all work. Call this and it will work. And then layering digital ink on top of their direct 2D graphics over our 3D. That's that composition device that you need for each window. So that's what handles the layering of those pieces. And then the next part we do once you put the pen down, we kind of start to get events back. So we have core pointer pressing and setting the inking mode. And this is, oops, hopefully we don't go too far. So basically what this does is let us check for events basically before we start inking. So we don't turn the inking system on right away. And so there's some toolbars up here. There's things in the graphics area that you might want to touch. And we found that users try to hit those with the pen, hit those buttons with the pen. So the ink system actually isn't turned on. But first thing we do is check to see what it's over. So we get those core events back of like, hey, I'm pressing a button with the pen. And then we don't turn the inking system on. If we don't get that back, then we turn it on and start the inking. So it's off most of the time until you actually need it with the pen down over space that you can ink on. So next, now that the pen's down, we've decided that we're inking. We've got the stroke started. We're running the command. We create all the stuff in SOLIDWORKS that puts it into the sketch. And then we do some things while the pen's moving. We're getting these stroke continued events back, and we get intermediate points and times of where the pen is at given moments, right? And so what that does is allow us to do our custom segmenting. So like I said, more complex profiles, something like this, might be more common in CAD. You want to create closed profiles to create solid stuff in 3D. So we're able to basically create our own routines. They run alongside ink analysis. So we either call ink analysis or we do our own custom thing based on the points and the pen speed to figure out where to segment this. And we're able to build them right alongside each other. So, and then the last piece, so when the pen comes up, we get this stroke collected event. It's collected, it comes back into our sketch, and we say, do we want to add the stroke? And this is where we start to make some decisions about what we're going to do with it. So we get those strokes back from direct ink here. This is kind of all the namespaces that you're using, but the key thing here is the argument is get strokes. And when they come back, then we can decide, well, do we need to start analysis? So I told you we had those two modes before about, do you want shapes or do you not want shapes? If you have one of the modes on that says I want shapes, we start the analysis. Now this happens kind of asynchronously, it happens separately, so kind of continue to do other things. And we pass those strokes in, so add data for strokes here into the ink analyzer and then analyze async. Really want you to know it's asynchronous. And then finally, that analysis comes back. It's complete. We get that analysis complete event. We have our analyzed strokes. We have our shape. We know where to put it. And then depending upon which of those is on, the add shape or convert entities, it gets added into our sketch. And then just some more stuff coming back to us. We get the analysis route from the ink analyzer and then the drawing nodes. So that's what kind is it? Is it a drawing? Is it handwriting? So we set that to just drawing. And then the shape results that come back. So we get the drawing kind, and then also the center point of the shape. This stuff helps us understand where to put it in space once we get it back. We get the points, so for vertexes, if it's a polygon, like where the points are on the triangle, and also if it's a circle or an ellipse, we get the center point of that. And that helps us. We're very interested in things like concentricity. So if you draw two circles, one around the other, we want to kind of snap them so that they're concentric. So we can line those center points up. And like I said, depending upon which one of these modes are on, we can decide to pop that in, how it goes into our sketch. And then lastly, once you exit the sketch, we unregister everything, turn it all off. Like I said, the ink system's off, and you go back to using the software just the way that you were before. And then the last piece, I talked a little bit about. Let's see if we can get back to SOLIDWORKS here. There we go. So we'll just tile these things side by side. So, and there are, I was talking about the composition target and the fact that you need individual composition targets for each window that you have open. And that's basically, so if I have two sketches going at once, I want the system to understand where to put it, where to put each of them, right? So, and do I have a sketch open here? I'm sure I do. So I've got one open here, I can draw here, and it puts it in the right place. If I come over here, I can draw here, it puts it in the right place. So I can be inking back and forth between two documents, and it kind of handles it, make sure it goes to the right place for me. So, jump back over to PowerPoint. Maybe. There we go. All right. Hey, there we go. So the basics here, it's actually not that difficult. Like I showed you, there's 4 things to use: the ink desktop presenter, the composition target. To get started with digital ink, you can layer it over top of an application that's Win32. All those APIs are available to you starting with the Creators Update. SOLIDWORKS has been around for 20-something years, and we were able to bring this in and implement it and start using the ink analysis pretty nicely. I also want to say a special thank you. Our developer, Tom McCown, is from the UK. He's a developer for us at SOLIDWORKS. He's done all the work on this project. I'm just here presenting it. But I wanted to make sure we said shout out to him and said thank you for all the hard work he's done. Some of the other things, too, the Ink Intelligence team, inkintelligence at Microsoft.com. They are incredibly helpful. They've been available to us, answering questions, helping us figure out how to get around roadblocks. That whole thing about the core events and pressing buttons with the pen, they helped us figure out what the right way around that was. And if you have questions about this presentation, Kevin Burney at 3ds.com. But I'm just about out of time. If you guys have questions or anything, myself, Sithra Misro from our team as well will be over here. We can answer questions. The ink folks are over here. Feel free to come find us. Thanks a lot for your time.